everyone and welcome back. So today we're talking about Nomadland. I know I'm a bit late to the party, but better late than never. So Nomadland follows Fern, a woman in her 60s who, after losing everything in the Great Recession, embarks on a journey across America as a van-dwelling nomad. The movie is directed by chloezhao and stars francesmcdormand. And ultimately, this is a beautiful, beautiful film about, the pursuit of happiness and just peace of mind. And not just about reconnecting with nature and, getting out there, but we've all become so isolated from one another. And so this was a really nice movie about reconnecting with the people around you. In terms of the film itself, first of all, aesthetically, the cinematography was stunning. It's like a photo album, this whole movie. It's very calming, it's very serene. And this helps with the pacing of the movie because it's not boring at all. I didn't find it boring. I found it to be very calming, very easy to watch, very light. It doesn't feel heavy, you don't feel depressed. And again, this atmosphere is what allows, and otherwise, trying to explain what a nomad is, not as this depressing lifestyle, but one that takes some balls to pursue. And in terms of francesmcdormand's performance, this was a very difficult performance. It was very subtle. And she does a good job of articulating, again, that a nomad is not this person in vulnerability, right? At one point she says, I'm houseless, not homeless, kind of making the point I'm not this weak person, I don't need your help, And again, she's grappling with a lot of things, and you see it throughout the movie, and it's a very, very nuanced performance, but I thought she did a great job, but y'all let me know. So anyways, we follow Fern, and we're kind of meeting her at a turning point in her life. And her journey for me suggests that with every end is a new beginning. And so when you meet her, she lost her husband. She lost her job that she shared with her husband. She sold her house and all her belongings to buy a van and basically just travel across America, taking odd seasonal jobs in order to survive. And so there's a number of running themes throughout this whole movie, but one of the things that it tries to debunk is the idea that happiness is something that you can buy or create, especially buy, actually. That happiness is something that you can buy. And throughout the movie, you're kind of watching people explain their nomad lifestyle, why they chose to kind of up and leave. And as you're listening to them, a few things kind of strike you, right? Which is that this is truly a choice. And for example, they're kind of sitting around a circle and one lady says that she used to work for corporate America, and one of her coworkers had gotten cancer or he gotten very sick, and he'd bought all these wonderful things for his retirement, like a boat, he had a nice house, and he died just before he could kind of enjoy these things. And he kind of told her on his deathbed, girl, you need to run, don't waste time, don't waste energy, don't waste. So you're kind of watching these people okay, so you chose to do this is clearly, you had other options, so then what? And again, the movie has a very interesting way of showing dual perspectives in terms of okay, is this a privileged lifestyle? What's the reason that you're doing this? And watching Fern, time and time again, she's offered stability and a place to stay, and she keeps turning it down, and you're wondering why are you doing this? And so she does a very good job in the movie of showing contrast. And here's how I know her performance was very good. Is because you watch her as a nomad, and then she takes you through different settings, whether it be suburbia, all these kind of different places, and throughout the movie Fern just looks really out of place when she's not in her, when she's not in that nomad lifestyle. And again, the energy she exudes, I think was quite tough. And so going back to this idea of privilege, at one point in the movie her van breaks down and she has to call her sister for money. And because she goes to California and her sister lives in the suburbs, and they're kind of having a conversation about, her nomad lifestyle. And they kind of say, well, not everybody can kind of get up and leave and, go off and do whatever they want. And she's like, excuse me, you sell dreams, you convince people to get into debt, to buy these houses, promising them happiness. And there's a lot of interesting commentaries here, but I really like the different settings. And it had me thinking, we take all these risks, and she kind of looks at her sister and all these people living this life that she herself was living, saying, there's no honor in this. And the idea being that, we spend all this time barricading ourselves from the outside world. this very cruel, cold universe that, wants to get us, when in fact, the real threat is this world of false promises that pretty much ranks us according to what we have equals what we're worth. So just to kind of expand on that, like, you watch Fern, she takes all these odd jobs. She works at an Amazon factory, she's a camp host, and throughout all these kind of interactions, again, nothing really happens in this movie. We're just kind of watching her grapple with her grief and try to start this new life. But in all her encounters, like, there's a level of vulnerability here. People are very transparent, they're very honest, everybody's on the same playing field. And anybody who has kind of, started from the bottom, I guess, and now that we're here, like, has kind of worked these jobs, like, that the best part is the people. Like, people are very honest and people are very, open with each other. No one's pretending to be anything that they're not. And you look at someone like Fern's sister, who kind of barricades herself and kind of created a life, dedicated to surrounding yourself with like-minded people, but nobody understands each other. And at one point she says to her, you're very brave for being a nomad because it takes some balls to do this. And I'm sad that you left because you're the only person that could see me. And she's looking at her like, you mean all these people who look like you don't see you at all? And again, it got me thinking about, like, again, how isolated we all are from each other. And just in general, like, we make a number of assumptions about people based on what they look like, how they dress, how they talk, how they walk, where they're from, their skin color, the way they present themselves, their voice, whatever. And then based on these assumptions, you kind of decide whether or not you want to open up to this person and tell them things, or you want to censor yourself and maybe kind of tell them what you think they want to hear. And so the question here is like where's the privilege, right? And this movie does a great job of kind of showcasing our own kind of ignorance, or our own kind of selfishness. It's like we want to be heard and we want people to see us and we want to feel comfortable, expressing our true selves, but at the same time, we don't really want to be burdened with other people's vulnerabilities and other people's openness and other people's, stuff like that. And so, you can sit there and say, like, that's not me. Like, I'm open, I don't judge people. But honestly, watching this movie, like, I was judging everybody from beginning to end. And so I had to sit back and really think about this because I made a number of assumptions. Like, I'm looking at these people, like, why are you living like this? Like, are you homeless? Like, do you need help? Like, is there anything we can do? And it's quite the opposite, right? And I think one of the best scenes is this Nomad conference that she kind of reluctantly goes to. And this is where she's learning survival skills, like how to basically, change a tire, take care of your car, where to park, do these things. And so you kind of learn that she's new to this as well. You're kind of watching these people and you're thinking like, oh my God, they have no one. Where are their children? Where are their families? Like what is going on here? And then of course you come to find out that, some of them worked for corporate America. Her love interest in the movie, David, he had a whole ass family. Like, I was looking at this man like, oh my God, whose dad is this? Like, he needs help. But no, like, he had a family and they were trying to take him and say, come live with us. And again, there's this whole conversation in this movie about like stability and comfort. And so for them, this is a lifestyle. But for their families, there's so much miscommunication. And even from the audience, right, you're kind of like, yeah, go live with your son. Like, go be happy, go be stable. And he, that's just not the case. And so by the end of the movie, you kind of realize why she turns down all these offers and decides to create stability and comfort for herself, regardless of whether or not, we're familiar with this, or this is not, this might not be how we see it, but that's how she sees it. So it opens up the possibility, like, you have to create comfort and stability for yourself, and you can't really be too concerned with how other people want to see it or don't want to see it. And so I could go on and on about this movie, but I guess to conclude my thoughts, I'll just focus on my favorite scene. And so towards the end of the movie, one of the nomads that was helping her change a tire and kind of figure out this lifestyle dies. And so at her wake, they're throwing rocks into the fire because she liked rocks. Like, that was one of the things that fascinated her. And one of the gentlemen who was throwing a rock said, I'll see you down the road. And later we find out that this gentleman's son, this nomad's son, had committed suicide. And he was saying, like, how can I be here when my son is gone? And the reason he says, I'll see you down the road, is that there's really no final goodbyes. and every soul you encounter, like one way or another, you're gonna see them again. And so I thought that was so beautiful considering the end, because by the end of the movie, she goes back to the house that she had sold and the town that she had kind of left with kind of new eyes, right? And what I got out of it ultimately is that life is about relationships and like how you honor these relationships. And so for Fern, at one point she says, what's remembered lives, right? And unfortunately, this is not something she wants to remember or something she wants to dwell on too much. And so, you know, you could make the argument like maybe you're kind of moving around because you don't want to deal with this, but in the end she deals with it. And all that to say, it's like you really have to honor every relationship, and it's painful, and of course this is not something she wants to do, but you know, as horrible as something is, there's always a chance for like a new beginning and something beautiful to come out of it. And so she kind of hits the road with this peace of mind. And I thought her performance was very subtle. I thought it was very difficult to do in my, like, I think it was a great performance because you see her grappling with grief. You see her kind of figuring out how to live as a nomad, you know, like trying to figure everything out. And you see it in her performance as the movie goes on. And so on a personal level, there's a lot I got out of it. And it got me thinking about happiness, you know, what it means, like stability. And we can only compare ourselves to the people around us, right? And that's why it's very hard to think of like alternative ways of living. And as someone who lives outside their home country, you know, people kind of say you fluffed, you know, you're fluffing around, you're not serious, like this is not, you know, you couldn't really make it here. But ultimately what people think is legitimate or not legitimate or safe or unsafe or, you know, success or unsuccess, that's not for you to debunk, right? Like that, you cannot be everything to everyone, and what will be, right? And again, she did a beautiful job of contrasting this nomad lifestyle with, you know, everyday life as we know it, and the, you know, the miscommunication between different characters, you know, who's helping who really needs the help, right? And again, this idea of creating your version of happiness and stability, you know, that's to each his own journey. So it was a really beautiful film, very well made, very calming. It's not depressing, so don't worry. The pacing is quite nice. And yeah, you guys let me know what you think, and until next time.